All right, everyone. I wanted to let you know that this is more of a training kind of session, so that I don't want anyone to be sharing their personal information or any type of particular situations on here. I will be recording. All right, everyone. I wanted to let you know somebody has their. Okay. This is more of a training kind of session. I hear the background. Hold on one second. So that I don't want any. All right. So, with that being said, I want to make sure that I protect your privacy and information and also your child's. You can put where you're coming from and all of that, but particular situations, it's better if you reach out to one of us outside of this space because it will be public. If you don't want your name to show up on the video or the live, you can put viewer number 1, viewer number 2, right? There are people for particular reasons that just want to maintain their anonymity, and we're okay with that. Everyone that attends today will be receiving a certificate of completion for civil rights, know your rights training. So I want you to let you know we value your time. And with that being said, I'm going to start recording and know that this is being aired live on YouTube. Okay. All right. Okay, we're on.
Hi, everyone. I am Lou with the National Action Network Antelope Valley chapter. I am also here with Miss Christina Laster, our Western Region Director of Education, as well as our partner organization, NAPI, CEO Yolande Beckles. And I will let them introduce themselves right now.
Morning, Yolanda Beckles, Board President of the National Association of African American Parents and Youth, in partnership with my NAN sisters and other colleagues who are joining us for this very important session being run by the brilliant and amazing Christina Laster. I was last night, have all of you seen this? Bettina Loves What We Want to Do More Than Just Survive. And I just thought about, as we open this morning, a real critical section in this book where she talks about what's really going on with our children that came from W.E. Du Bois. What do we want? What is the thing we most want to offer? We want to be Americans, full-fledged Americans with all the rights of all the American citizens. But is that all? Do we want simply to be Americans? Once in a while, through all of us, there are flashes and some clairvoyance, some clear idea of what America really is. We who are dark can be seen by America in a way that white Americans cannot. And seeing our country, thus are we satisfied with its present goals and ideals, from W.E. Du Bois. So I just thought, as I spoke with Christina and Lou and others prior to this Zoom being called, I just thought this would be an introduction that I had to share with you all. So thank you for that. And I'm emailing members to make sure they're jumping on.
Would you like us to wait a few minutes?
No, I think we should start 11 o'clock. I got to be off by like 12:45 for my next.
All right. So I am Christina Laster, and I serve as, and sorry about the glare. I have to be able to look at the computer and navigate the web. So I have my blue lens glasses on. So I serve as the education director with the National Action Network. And part of what I do is serve the Western region primarily, but then we have chapters all across the nation. So I serve the national chapters as well. So at any given moment, if someone calls in to our crisis line or reaches out to their local chapters and they have an issue that is a potential legal violation or a civil rights violation, then the chapters will try to do their best to support and serve or refer those families. But when it's something that is a little bit more complicated, then I get those types of cases. And so my expertise is in policy and legislation. I am a political science, a political scientist by degree, right? I know a lot of times we're doing a lot of activism and advocacy, but I literally have breathed, lived, slept the code. Okay. And so when people want to decode something, they come to me. So that's why we're here today. I'm going to be walking you through various sectors of the code, who's responsible for enforcement, because what happens is when I first talk to parents, they try to secure their own, I would call it enforcement of a violation, right? And what that looks like is primarily going to talk to a teacher and then escalating it to a principal. And then when you don't get anything done with them, it's taking it to the district. And you didn't realize all of it is in-house. You showed up at the board meeting and you didn't realize all of it is in-house. And so as you see, because of my background, how successful have we been taking our discrimination complaints to the same people who are committing them, the violations, and then asking them to then turn and do the just and right thing, right? So I leave nothing in-house. I will utilize the courts, the enforcement agency, right? There's a scripture that I like to read and ponder on. It says, render unto Caesar's what's Caesar's, and unto God what is God's. And it is my strong belief that our children belong to God and the system belongs to Caesar. So I'm going to render the people that are bad actors back to them, to the system that is supposed to hold them accountable. But I'm not going to do it in the same in-house place where things are not changing. So I have learned to master the navigation of the code to figure out what is the violation, who is accountable for enforcement over that. Is it the Office for Civil Rights? Yes, but which one, right? And so that is what I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you how to navigate the external mechanisms for your rights, so that you're not just looking at the same system that'll keep you running around, spinning your wheels, and all of that. Okay. Now, when I do this, my teaching style is to come with a blank Google page, tell you what I'm going to search up, and then put the link in the chat. And we will follow up with all of those links because you're going to get your certificate of completion, remember? The reason why I do that is because oftentimes the number one thing that I hear is, I didn't know this was my right. No one told me. And in a sense, they did tell you because it was publicly made known. You just didn't know where to find it. And then when you went to go find it, you had to go through a labyrinth or a maze of information that frustrated you to the point of no return, or you didn't know which direction to look in. And so you end up getting a lot of maybe well-meaning advice from, mama and papa and them, and, people that are your neighbors or maybe other parents, but you need to hit the target and not miss every single time. So I'm here to teach you how to hit the bullseye every single time. All right, so we're going to start out. And while I'm teaching, I am going to go ahead and turn my camera off, and then I'm going to be sharing the screen. Are there any questions? I want to pause. I will pause frequently for questions and check the chat. Are there any questions so far about what we're doing today? Okay, we will be following up for an in-person meeting where I will come, we'll sit together and hear about any personal complaints that you have, okay? We'll call it like a complaint resolution workshop, okay? And we will do that until I have an opportunity to help every single parent understand their rights, along with NAPI and Lou. We all work together. We're in a coalition of the willing. Coalition of the willing. We don't pull anybody kicking and screaming, and we don't look at numbers as a quantifier, because it can be one of you who's very powerful and understands your rights that is a game changer, a change agent. All right. So let us get started. Welcome. If you're just entering, please put where you're from in the chat, and this will be my attendance registration for you to make sure that you get your certificate of completion. Okay, now I'm going to do exactly what I said. We're going to start with a blank Google page. Okay. Can you all see that? Okay. Now, I understand that I have a little laryngitis from allergies and other things, so bear with me. As if I cough or something, I'll take a small break. All right. Yes, I see a hand raised. 760. Do you have a question?
Yeah, this is Nicole. I'm on the telephone part. I'm trying to get into this Microsoft, but I'm listening. I was wondering if you can maybe Luke can maybe email it to me or something.
Absolutely.
If I can't get on the thing, but Nicole Williams in Palmdale, California is on the line on the phone.
Absolutely. Listen, I support every modality of learning. If you are a listener and you have to go back and view later, that's fine, right?
Thank you.
Because a lot of people learn by listening. So you don't worry about it. You're fine on the phone. Okay. Let's see here. So we are at the page and I'm going to zoom in. Okay. So if you do a basic search for the Civil Rights Act, okay, you're going to, excuse me, you're going to come up with some basic language, right? And you'll see a little bit about education, a little bit. Now, you're looking for a particular part of the Civil Rights Act.
Lower the volume.
Okay, but you may not know it.
Okay, so because you can hear me.
Yolanda, I think that's your, I can hear you if you're asking a question. And you're not going to know what that is. And you might come up with some history. You know, you have here the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So it's kind of challenging to Google because that could take you on a rabbit hole oftentimes, and you sometimes don't get what you need. You get a lot of helpful stuff, but it's like looking up a symptom on Google without knowing exactly what direction you're going in because you don't really know the root cause, right? And so we're going to look at a couple of these so you can see what it is that it talks about. There are various titles within the Civil Rights Act. Now, why do I bring this up? Because if you notice on any complaints that you would fill out, whether that be typically the federal one, some of them do show up on the state, it will say that according to the Civil Rights Act of 1964, for the most part, you don't see the 1857. You see the 1964 utilized a lot. So that's why I took you to the main one that gives civil rights enforcement capabilities to the federal government and is something that is mandated for compliance for states. Okay, So the states, even though they don't like it, that's not the issue. It's, are you supposed to comply with it, is the question, whether you like it or not. Okay, and yes, they are. So anytime you enter a public facility, you will note, and I'm going to put this in the chat. Don't worry if you are not on, a device. We'll email this to you. You will note that there are non-discrimination clauses. If you're not in a public facility, they're not bound particularly by government rules. You got to understand private corporations and their sovereignty, right? If I go to a restaurant and I say, this isn't a government facility, this is just a restaurant. Hey, I have freedom of speech. Do you really? Because you just entered into a facility that does not necessarily have to respect, depending on where you're at, state-wise, your First Amendment rights. First Amendment is something that the government does, public sector does, right? But a private entity does not have to offer you a public accommodation. Does that make sense? Okay. So I think a lot of times people get frustrated in trying to access their rights in places that you have no right to access them. And then you hear a lot of people say they violated my rights. Well, did they really? If you're on social media, do you have the right to speak freely? Because is social media public? And are accommodations guaranteed by the government? Or is social media owned by private corporations? Okay. So make sure that you understand the difference between who is responsible for respecting, upholding, implementing, and enforcing a right. Now, when we talk about, again, civil rights, the 1964 is used a lot. However, there are titles within, okay? So we would be looking at section, this USC right here. That's how you're going to find it. I'm going to show you. So that means Title 42 of the United States Code, which is the United States Code, for those of you that don't know, are the compiled laws of the United States of America. Okay. And so Title 42 deals with human rights, social welfare, how to treat people in America. And you will find on this part, this little numeral is going to be the section. Section 2000D and that et sequence. Okay. So everything in section 2000 is dealing with civil rights. And we're going to go there. They have A, B, C, D. Okay. Now, if you were to look this up in the Code of Federal Regulations, you may find it in different sections. Can you see me highlighting that blue down there? Okay.
Yes.
So that's CFR, because I like to explain abbreviations. That stands for the Code of Federal Regulation. Again, you have the compiled laws of the US enumerated by number. Okay. So let me take you over there so that you can see it in context. Now, this particular agency is telling you, see this? The United States Department of Justice. Now, if you don't specify in your search that you're looking for the US ... US Health and Human Services, US Department of Justice, US Department of Education, then typically what'll happen is if you just put Department of Justice in a chat, it's going to bring up your state and local agencies. I want you to familiarize yourself with the enforcement agencies at the federal level, because a lot of the oversight comes from the federal grants and monies that are given to do the work. Can't apply and receive federal money and then discriminate against people, because you already signed that you refuse to do that, right? And so when people do that, then we notify their grantor and their enforcer, which would be the U.S. Department of whatever, Homeland Security, Justice, Health and Human Services. If you're discriminated against at the airport, they have an office for civil rights for you to fill out a complaint if someone violated your rights at the airport. Okay. But you have to make sure that you're going to the US and then whatever the agency you're looking for. And so as you can see right here, the DOJ is tasked with compliance of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And as you can see, this says federal coordination and compliance. All right. Now I'm going to take you, here's the Civil Rights Division. We said we're going to talk about that. So let's look at this. And I'm going to take you to the state level one so that then you can see the difference, right? So here you have the U.S. Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. And is this in the chat? Did I put this link in the chat? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I could resend it if you need me to.
Okay. No, I just want to make sure that everybody has it and then we can have it sent out later. All right. So here it says, what is it that we do, right? What is it that the federal government spends their time doing? Now, most of you may know that Kristen Clarke is the Assistant Attorney General of the U.S. Right here, it gives more information. And right here, it gives a telephone number, right? So from today forward, I don't want to hear anybody say, I didn't know how to contact anybody. Because even if you can't get a hold of us and somebody is violating your civil rights, get a hold of them, right? The number is right there, okay? You see the number. I will put the information in the chat, okay? Let's see. Now, I will tell you. All right, I will put the website in the chat too. Sorry about that. All right, you see that? There's the number. We know it's Kristen Clarke. And we see you can make contact with them either way. Okay. Now, what they cannot do is become your personal attorney. Because remember, you're still talking to government. So I teach these classes so you'll understand how to communicate with them, how to pose your question, and how to get your complaint taken seriously, okay? So when you ask them a question, you are going to be seeking primarily technical support. If you need to, let me go to the complaint form. So let's go through this real quick. The Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice was created in 1957. You'll see another act in 1957 mentioned as the Civil Rights Act of 1957, okay? So this division preceded the OCR at the U.S. Department of Education. This division was there prior to 1964, okay? So it works to uphold the civil and constitutional. Now, here's where you take your, they violated my First Amendment rights complaints. If you don't know where else to take them, right? Do children lose their right to free speech at school? Does anybody know that? Okay. The Supreme Court has already given a decision about that, and it was back in another case that I will share. So you'll have the language that says that school students, we're talking K through 12, do not shed their First Amendment rights at the schoolhouse gate, right? However, the limits come in is it disturbing or distracting or causing other children to be inhibited from learning? So that's where the school has authority to say, yes, they did not shed their First Amendment rights. However, this is why we had to censor them. And if you don't agree, take it to this department. Okay, 1 second, I got to bring it back up. Can you guys see it? If somebody could just answer, because I'm not looking at
Yes, we can
Okay.
see it.
Yes, we can see it.
right? Because they uphold the civil and constitutional rights of all persons in the United States. You are a citizen, whether you like it or not, of the United States. Maybe you're not, maybe you're visiting, right? But even when you go back home, there's a governance structure and a government or maybe a monarchy that rules and governs there. So what I try to tell people is that if you are somewhere on the planet, there is going to be a government structure with rules that are probably going to be what we call codified, okay, written and compiled in a certain type of order. And so for you to be effective at advocating for your rights, you have to understand that governance structure, who to go to, and where the codification exists. And that's what we're doing right now. So as you see, it says particularly some of the most vulnerable members of our society. The division enforces federal statutes prohibiting discrimination on the basis of race, color, sex, including pregnancy, sexual orientation, and gender identity. Okay. Now, you have disability, religion, and familial status, national origins, and citizenship status. One of the things that I have brought to this organization as well, and it doesn't list it, is that there was a child where race and bullying intersected, but they were also being bullied for their socioeconomic status, right? A lot of times people don't think that's something that they can say, like these are layers of the discrimination. And I have over and over again said, please feel free to reach out to them. Say, I'm looking at the form. So we're going to go to the form right now. If you have an employment issue, right? We're going to go, they even do FOIA. I don't have time to go into every single section, but we can glaze over it. And I hope that you go back and look later. Now, people say, where's the contact? Looks like it's right here, huh? So these things are actually in plain view, but oftentimes, as I said, we don't know who, where, and how to navigate. So in compliance with, here's another one that you should look up. Anytime you see them quote something, just get in the habit of knowing what they're saying, okay? The 1996 Electronic Freedom of Information Act. In compliance with that act, the Civil Rights Division FOIA branch has selected these records as containing subject matter that has become or is likely to become the subject of periodic or repeated FOIA requests. A lot of times, those are the complaints. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? Because I'm going to show you the complaint form, and then I'm going to go to another site to show you the difference. Do you have any questions? All right. So if we click on that, again, when you go to the websites, you have to be focused on what it is that you're there for, because it can take you down a trail that never ends. You'll see a whole bunch of other recognizing that as the Title V of the US Code, Section 552. Okay, that's how that reads. And as you see, here's how you make a request. But we don't want to make a FOIA request. Maybe some of you do. They will tell you in the on the website what it is that they enforce, what their duties are. And if you're a citizen of a government, you have the right to request that the government intervene. That's why the right to petition is part of protest or peaceably assembly. So I always say, if we're going to peaceably assemble to request redress of our grievances, we better codify it in a codified society. So while I am willing to always march, and I am always willing to come and stand out and hold signs, at the same time, I am going to put in writing to every single entity responsible for carrying out something with regards to my complaint, what it is that I need them to do to redress our grievances. Because that's utilizing the fullness of your right to speak freely and peaceably assemble and petition the government for redress of your grievances. Okay. And oftentimes I will include in my written petition to government, here are the dates we plan to peaceably assemble, or we have already peaceably assembled ourselves to request redress. And at the state or local level, we got none. So I'm coming to you, federal government. What are you going to do? Okay. And I can tell you that I haven't had a complaint that was rejected yet. All right. So here you can see the cases that they're involved in, educational opportunities, right? This is something that if you go to OCR, you'll be able to look at too, right? So they're, broken up by category. Let me go ahead and put this in the chat. A lot of times I will read these because then it helps me to understand what they're not going to be willing to do. Because I'm looking at their previous complaints and looking at the way that they've handled them, okay? And with that being said, then I know if I send a complaint, I don't want to discourage you though, because you never know, right? You may have something that they see that you might not see or I might not see, as long as it's within their purview and jurisdiction. Now, I want you to see all of the things that they've done, and they've already posted them here for you, okay? Some of them have entered into a settlement agreement. You may want to know how that happens. When you see this term right here, amicus brief, that means that they're entering as friends of the court.
Oh,
Okay?
okay.
So when you see the terminology amicus brief, because I've done 3 of them and put them in federal courts to get into the court's consciousness prior to making a decision. Okay, so let's click.
What does Sigma?
I'm sorry. Okay, so these are court documents when you see amicus, right? So this one.
What does Sigma?
Who is Anna?
I'm trying to mute them right now.
Cara.
Okay, somebody
So
click them, please.
You fucking nigger. You fucking nigger. You fucking niggers. Fucking
Was
nigger.
geht YouTube? Ich bin's auf YouTube. Heute machen wir mal wieder ein YouTube-Video. Heute schauen wir mal, wie es Zoom Dings. Was geht YouTube? YouTube. Was geht YouTube? Heute machen wir mal wieder ein Zoom-Video.
Lou Walker. Lou Walker, you're a nigger. You're a nigger, Lou Walker.
Nigger.
You're a
Whatever.
nigger.
Okay, are you done?
You're a nigger. Shut the fuck up, nigger. nigger, nigger,
You
nigger,
need
nigger,
to
nigger,
shut this
nigger,
one
nigger,
down.
nigger, nigger, nigger,
Hold on one
nigger,
second.
nigger, nigger,
Hold
nigger,
on one
nigger, nigger,
second.
nigger, 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 nigger,
Hold
nigger,
on
nigger,
one
nigger.
second, because I don't
Fucking
allow
nigger. Shut the
who is
fuck
this
up, you
person?
fucking nigger.
Yeah,
Shut the
that's why
fuck
you
up, you
hiding behind a
fucking nigger.
mask.
Shut
That's
the
why
fuck
you
up,
hiding
you.
behind a mask with your scary self. Who is that?
I don't know. They
Yeah.
Okay,
showed-
that's why they hiding behind a Zoom. Now,
I just removed like 3 accounts.
that's fine.
I
Okay,
just
Oh,
removed
wow.
3
Thank you.
accounts.
Thank you.
That's why I wanted to register people so I
Yeah, but
could know
that's
who was
okay,
joining.
because
And
we
that's what
not
we're going to do
scared.
moving forward.
And
That's
we're
what we're
not
going to
hiding,
do.
but I understand, and I don't want anyone to feel triggered. But one thing that I do not do is back down, okay? At the face of some petty, scary white supremacists hiding behind capes at night, can't even come out in the daytime, and on Zoom. So I want y'all to know that when Nan say they write out, we write out. Okay, we're not scared. And I was just saying, I wanted somebody to kick them off.
That just shows the hate that's out
I
there
don't
for us
even
right
care
now.
if they
I'm
hate
just saying, like, even in the schools, even in the world, it just shows the hate that's out against us right now.
They can hate me and I ain't gotta like them back. Okay. So you know, this is not the turn the other cheek meeting, as you can see. Let's go ahead and make sure that whoever has control of the chat is able to kick people immediately instead of allowing them space. So if I made you a co-host, what I do is kick them immediately, and instead of allowing them space to be able to even take over a screen, okay? Because if they do that, then I don't want anyone to get hacked. That's the only concern that I have, okay? So the bottom line is, when people do that, and it's happened to me in educational settings, teaching students. So Alondra is right, because I've been working in education since I graduated from high school. And she's right. During COVID and prior to that, our children were subjected to Zoom bombings like that, right? And when parents called me about those, I made sure that they were able to codify what happened to them. Now, if that triggered you, I apologize for that trigger of that behavior. But as things continue to get worse over time, because they want them to be worse, we have to be more thick-skinned, okay? We have to fight. I have a mentor, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about this, who is now in her 70s. And she told me, well, she's early 70, maybe late 60s. She told me that she was 9 years old watching dogs and water hoses get sick on her parents. She was one of the kids in the pictures of horror that you see. And that's why I take this serious, because I had the opportunity to have strong leadership teach me not to be scared based on what they experienced as children, watching some of the things that we look at as historical facts, right? So what I want us to do is be more fortified and have the fortitude, boldness to challenge this type of behavior at its face. Nobody should be able to put their hands on us and our children without us defending us, ourselves, and them. I believe in self-defense, and I believe in others' defense, okay? So you heard that from the education director, defend yourselves, all right? Now, I am going to commence with, does anyone want to pause for another reflection? Because I want to go on, but we can get those people out quicker.
Yeah, we're going to be screening, so keep going.
Yeah.
They're not going to stop us.
We're not going to give the enemy space, right?
No, we're not.
The Bible says don't pay attention, give any space or heed to to Hasatan, the devil. So I'm a believer of that scripture. All right, so as you can see that this brief was entered in a civil action, right? And so when I say amicus brief, you're going to know that that was submitted to the courts. Now, the reason why they had to submit an amicus brief is because they weren't a party to the case. Okay?
Excuse me, Christina, we're not seeing your screen.
Oh, really? Thank you.
And I had my hand up for a question also.
Okay, I'm sorry I missed it. Can you go ahead and ask your question?
Sorry,
Yes.
Joe, I didn't see your hand up.
Yeah, when you took us to the FOIA page, is the Freedom of Information.
The Freedom of Information Act at the Civil Rights Division of the
Right.
Department of Justice. Yes.
Right. Do you just find like cases that had been filed, or are there other documents that you can reference from that library? Like if you're trying to find out a statute or something, or is it exclusively for cases that's been?
No, if you navigate, great question, right? And so this is just one entity, you guys. So there is also what we have, the Office of Attorney General, right? So understanding what is the Office of Attorney General. Now, if I put Office of Attorney General, and without putting the US OAG, then it's going to take you where? California. And California has a civil rights division. They have to be in compliance with the California state, civil rights rules. But those rules cannot be any less. They can be more, but they can't be less than what the federal government offers. So if you were to go to the OAG, you want to make sure that it doesn't say California. You see this?
Right.
That in the hyperlink or the link, it says oag.ca.gov. Okay. So a lot of times say, I filed my complaint. Well, you filed it with California, and here's the problem with doing that. You then have to wait until they investigate and resolve a matter before you're able to escalate it to the federal government. So once you file your matter with the state level entity, you can't then do a federal complaint at the same time. You have to choose which one you want to do. And if it were me, I'm going to choose the federal entity.
Start high.
Right?
So do they have a Freedom of Information section there also?
Yeah, that's what I was, okay, yeah, I knew I was getting somewhere with that. I'm sorry. So right here is where, for those of you that needed to know where the complaint form is, it's right here. Okay, I'm going to put that in the chat. And if someone can write underneath that DOJ complaint form, that we all keep going, right? That's what that is. Now let's go to the FOIA section. I don't know who Sheldon is, but now you see there's several entities that are responsible for that as well. All right. Someone named Sheldon is trying to enter.
I'm not admitting anybody else for the
okay, well, I don't know. Yolanda can if she wants. I'm going to make her co-host. So if these are her.
I'm messaging them individually while they're in the waiting room. If they haven't registered and I'm looking at the list, I'm ignoring them.
Okay, not a problem.
Yeah, we don't want to be disrupted again. They should have registered. And, I've texted people and I've sent them to the registration link.
Yeah, the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. All right, so here you have the FOIA. Is this what you were asking? Or what in particular are you looking for under FOIA? I'm sorry, I can't see the name of the person who asked the questions.
Hi, it's Joanne Russell.
Hi. So
yes,
you have go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening to you. I was
So
just asking what all would we find at FOIA?
Right. So
Okay,
I
thank you.
just sent you all of that. And it's good to look at the 9 exemptions, right? So there are exceptions and exclusions, I'm sorry, and exceptions that sometimes law enforcement will say they have with regards to Freedom of Information Act requests. So it's good for you to know if you're going to put in a Freedom of Information Act request, which at the state level is called a public records request, right? Here it's, we have the Open Records Act. Then it's good for you to know the exclusions and exemptions so that you do not ask for things that they can say, we're not going to give you any of this because of we're, excluded or exempted, right? So it's good to know these things, right? Now, if you're looking for information for a school-age child, you would not be exercising your rights under FOIA. You would be exercising your rights under FERPA, which is different. And FERPA is for parents, if you're a parent or family that is looking to do that. Otherwise, you can use FOIA, but a lot of times when it's with regards to minor children, that information is going to be somewhat hard to obtain because they're bound to the rules of FERPA as well. So they will say, we can't give you this footage or this information because of FERPA, right? Protecting the image or information of another student, right? So then what you want to do is say, can you redact it? Or is there a way to blur it so that no other students are, seen or the names aren't there, right? Always ask for the workarounds. If you're the general public, look at some ways that media has sent their FOIA open and public records requests to schools, school districts. You want to look at some of their FOIA requests and try to utilize that as a template, okay? But if you're a parent, you have the right to access every single part of your child's data without anything being withheld. I'm petty enough to ask for nurses' visits. That's not petty though, right? Do you guys have notes from the cafeteria? Did the cafeteria lady log anything about my child? I want to see the behavior records. Did the recess aide come and talk to the principal about my child? Where's that documented at? Okay. I need the records. And then anything that you see that is inaccurate or a wrongful narrative about your child, because I do this in IEP and 504 meetings all the time. Language being used about children to make them sound like monsters. I have it omitted. I have it revised and edited, okay? You can also do that and the review of accuracy of grading under FERPA. So let's go there real quick so I can give you that website. And I'm going to pause for any other questions that people may have.
So question, Christina, when parents go in and request the COOM file,
yep,
and they want to remove documents out of it, do we
Yep.
have to ask permission of the school?
Yep. Okay. So as you see right here, and I'm glad I have my AI overview because sometimes I'm trying to break it down really quick when I'm in meetings, and we can do as many of these sessions as needed. Okay. I want to make sure that everyone understands how to make an effective request about your child, your records, and then how to complain effectively too, right? So do you see where it says right here, the family? Yes, I am able to do live sessions. The Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. Again, remember, it's how you ask a question sometimes, right? Because if people are used to you having a lack of knowledge, okay, and then you go in and you say, I need to see my child's records right now, and what you didn't know is to say, I exercise my FERPA rights to review my child's records, and I would like to look at them where they're at right now. Do you have a filing cabinet here on campus? Can you go get them? I know you might not be able to make copies today because they do have 45 days, but I have parents that exercise their FERPA rights to go into the office and look at the files they have on hand. Okay? And they put sticky notes or make a journal. I have a parent that does this once a week, y'all. Once a week.
That's impressive.
She goes in for her sons. I need to look at my children's records. And if there's anything that is added or taken away, she documents that, codifies a complaint to the appropriate enforcement agencies every single time. You talk about squeaky wheel. How often is the FERPA office going to get tired of hearing from that parent, right? Before they say, what is going on over here? Now, I've had school districts violated for violating FERPA. I've also had school districts violated for violating USDA free and reduced meals program, which is under a whole other program, right? So here you can see that the statute is found at the Title 20 of the U.S. Code, Section 1232G. And you don't see et sec, right, behind that. So make sure that you know to go and look at that particularly. And you can also find the FERPA regulations at the Code of Federal Regulations. That's what CFR means, remember? 34, Part 99. Now, one of the things I want to show you is if you type in FERPA and the Federal Register, okay? Boom, here you go. You're going to enter everywhere the government logs what their changes are. This is that site, and they have to tell you what actions they committed according to those rules. So if I was to put civil rights in there, right, it's going to show you all of the recent, I'm sorry, y'all, the recent actions. If people are able to also publicly comment on this. So if someone's proposing a change to the rule, you're able to offer public comment as long as comments are open. I checked the comments because I enter comments sometimes and frequently. Now that becomes a part of public information. See this? Department of Education agency that's responsible. It's going to tell you. Okay. So a lot of times I will go to the Federal Register to find out what's going on. I will go here to see what is under the U.S. Department of Education. Are there any rules or rule changes? And how can I submit my comment? Now, right here is where you're going to find, you see at the top where I'm going through what's going on with topics and agencies, okay? So if I'm looking for education, then I'm going to go ahead and go down to D, or it may be under, yep, right there. Okay, it's going to give you some information. You're going to see there are all of these documents, right? On this page, significant documents, recently published. So as you can see, on 9/27/2024, the Department of Education published General Administrative Regulations and related regulatory provisions corrections in order to get them codified and entered into the CFR or the US code, once they're already in code, then they have to come through this process. And then this process gives us, the citizens, the opportunity to comment. And maybe it's not a rule-making request that they're making. It could be correct an error in the code, right? So watch that frequently. Also, if you go here, you can find out what meetings are coming up with what agency, and they put those links in the Federal Register too. Go ahead.
My question is that you said that they public can comment on the changes they were going to make. How do we get notified? Because I noticed that like even the census people make changes and you can comment, but you don't know that they're doing it because you're not sitting there watching the page. So how do we, is there a place we can go and sign up for particular notifications?
Not really, because this is the whole thing about, I mean, some of the offices or agencies, right? You can subscribe, but you would be subscribing per agency, right? So if I press subscribe here, I'm subscribing to be notified from the U.S. Department of Education, okay? I want to tell you that there is no entity or agency that is going to notify you about this. And so you have to be the watch person.
Thank you.
Okay. You have to be the watcher. And a lot of times we miss it. I remember I was in the Central Valley, California, and parents were upset because millions of dollars were granted to non-Black people for sickle cell anemia research.
Outrageous. That's outrageous.
Right? No one was notified that this monies was coming down. And I said, they notified you at places like this. You just didn't know where to look. So I'm teaching you where to go dig this stuff up, because it shouldn't be public but secret. Now it's going to take you some time. So what I typically tell people, find your lane, whatever way it is. If you're the person that says, I want to watch the Federal Register to see what's happening with the Department of Education, you're doing something. And then I'm going to take that information back to my community. Okay? Because when I bring up this next thing, I'm going to ask y'all, have you seen it? And then we're going to go over to the commission to talk about that. Okay? So did you know that there is, and I think I talked to people about this in person. Sorry, y'all. Got my granny glasses on. Does anyone else have a question while we navigate to this?
This is a lot of learning happening this morning. And
Yeah.
I'm glad we're going to revisit it all when you're live with us at the Knowledge Shop in a couple of weeks' time. But I just think, you know, when we send out, when Lou and I send out the brief to everybody, you know, what I tell everybody, you know, you can't do this stuff if you're not prepared to put in the work and do the learning. This is learning, that this is teaching, that this is education, this is knowledge that Christina's giving us today. And so we just can't jump on bandwagons and go, oh, we're going to sue school districts, right? Sue the school. You got to do your homework. You got to do your learning. You've got to do the knowledge before you can jump on bandwagons. So thank you so much, Christina, for giving us this introduction, because I've been doing this for 16 years in America, and half this stuff you're pulling up, I have never heard of. Well, never. So I'm putting my hands up as somebody who kind of thinks I'm an expert in this field. This is completely, a lot of this is new to me today. So
and I've helped parents from the UK understand their system of common schools.
I'm sure.
Because a lot of times people are saying, well, what gives me the right? First, you have to look at what type of governance structure you have. Is it under a constitution or a monarchy? And then what are their decrees, or either what are those constitutional rights? And then, you know, go on down, right? And so there's a reason why this is not taught generally, and why there's shrouding in so much secrecy, right? Because then you wouldn't be assailable. Because you would be, every single time a violation happens, saying, actually, according to your own rules, regulations, and policies, laws, this is what you are supposed to be doing. Okay. I have fought several cases across the nation, and I haven't lost one.
Congratulations, Christina. Thank you.
Well, thank God,
you,
right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank God, yeah.
Right. So this is because I understand the code in the codified system, right? And I want you to understand it as well, so that you're not, sometimes we can be yelling, but wrong. We sound good, but technically we're wrong. And we have to admit that.
And that's exactly what's going on in BSAP. I'm hearing a whole heap of yelling, but where there's no focus, we're all over the place.
Right.
We've got different conversations going on around our Black students, and everybody's coming with their own take. The only take is what the law says.
That's
what
it.
does the law say? And I'm not hearing anyone giving my parents, my students, any of that advice. So thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this. And I just hope that my Black parents who are on here will take this information and share it with parents in their school sites, at BSAP meetings, at steering committees, because we're all jumping up and down, but this is the information we need to know. Because some parents are telling me, oh, BSAP hasn't changed, it's still for Black kids. They tell me that one week, and then they come at the next week and say, oh, I was in a meeting and they said the money's going to all the Latino students. So how is the BSAP still for Black students? We're trying to protect a program that was designed for our children. But if we don't know these laws that Christina is giving us today, then we have nothing. We're not armed with anything, just our mouths. And right now, they're just a whole bunch of hot air. Thank you, Christina.
Not a problem. And like
I'd like to piggyback on what Yoli just said, because that is my reason for sitting here today, because I want to know really, like, rules and regulations. How is it that they can arbitrarily decide to dismantle something that was documented to be needed? What is our recourse for having them reestablish it? Were they responsible for coming back to the parent association? And why didn't they stand up for Black kids when it was a decision, not by just us, but the LAUSD, that this was needed and necessary for the academic achievement and for our children to begin to catch up? But yet and still you can help everyone else. But when we say Black, what's the problem?
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second, because I want to acknowledge what you're saying. And I saw, Kelly, you came off of mute, so I want to allow you a chance to speak, and then I'll respond.
Yes, I was just going to be very brief and say that the thing, oh shoot, my old age just kicked in on me. Wait a minute. Go ahead with what you.
Take your time.
Oh my God. What I was going to say was that the change that they call a minor change that opened up the floodgates to everyone was really based on an inquiry when the BSAP steering committee was told that it was a complaint, and they had the attorney come down from the district saying why we needed to do this and all of those things. The committee was totally against it, but still, again, there's lies being told where it was an inquiry, we find out, but we were originally told it was a complaint that we had to act on. And an inquiry and a complaint are two different things.
Okay, let's talk about the BSAP for a second, right? And Sharice, I'm going to come to you next. So I ended up contacting OCR of USAID to find out what was going on. I also talked to someone at LAUSD and other people that I asked for their professional legal suggestions or advice. And one of the things that was not stated to the public was that LAUSD had set up or established a system that somehow was going to become a quota-based system. And that wasn't a violation of just Civil Rights Act of 1964, right? 2000 sequence. It was a Brown versus Board violation. You cannot establish quotas. What do I mean by that? Somehow LAUSD told schools that they had to have a certain amount of students per school to qualify for the program. That is a quota system. You can't do that. But is LAUSD smart enough to know not to do that? It's the biggest district in the state of California and the highest funded district in the state of California. So did they or did they not know that they were violating Brown versus Board of Education by creating a system of quotas?
They knew it. They knew it. I'm sorry. They knew.
Okay. And one other thing that I'd like to say before we go to Ms. Sharice. Whenever I know that someone's wrong, I never go back and ask for the same thing. I go back and ask for more. Okay? Your request for reinstatement may not be your point of justice. Your request should be greater. Okay? Because now you've spent your wills and time, which is valuable and you can never get it back, fighting for something for them to somehow overlook the quota system that is highly illegal. So ask for greater. What do I mean? Prop 209 is a problem in California. We need to demand that the state stop allowing people to use it as the black codes of the West. Right?
Thank you.
Ms. Sharice, go ahead.
Sorry, you guys. Hello, everyone. I just really want to thank you for this space. As someone who is tackling these racial issues from a different lens, I'm not looking at it necessarily strictly from an educational, but from a big picture. I actually don't see anything wrong with the program, even though there was a quote unquote target, because of Prop 209, because of even before this most recent affirmative action decision, if a program is tailored specifically, if it's narrowly tailored specifically to overcome past harms, etc. My issue is that I felt like LA Unified laid down and did not defend the program or restructure it in a way that would make it legal. The problem that we have, and I'm not going to talk long, I'm going to listen. The problem we have is we have demonic forces working against us, and one of those demonic forces is Edward Blum. And I just don't feel like there was enough creativity and legal and a desire from LA Unified to actually defend the program. That's number one. And number two, from what I understand, the complaint was filed with the federal government. It was a federal civil rights, not necessarily directly with the LA Unified. I could be wrong, but they filed a federal complaint.
You're right. They filed a federal complaint saying that Section 2000D of the 1964 Civil Rights Act was violated. Yeah.
So Edward Blum is, and I've filed complaints against him. I'm still working to get those brought up to the attention of the DOJ, the IRS, etc. What he's trying to do really is redetermine, get the Supreme Court, etc., to reinterpret these civil rights laws, for all of them. not just with education, with contracting, anything that benefits specifically Black people. And I want to encourage everyone on the call, look who our representatives are in Congress and Senate, because those should have been the people who raised red flags or defended this program and not give it to everybody.
Yep.
This should have been defended tooth and nail, because the majority of our senators and our Congress people are Democrats, and they say, you know, have been labeled as progressive, etc. For me, folks need to be reaching out to them, but also as an FYI, there is a Status of Black Americans Commission. I think it should be standalone. I don't think it should be, but it's under the Department of Education. So why is the head of Department of Education, the complaint went to your office, sir? Why did you not defend that? And why wasn't it brought to the attention of the Office of Black Americans, who, you know, very prominent people who sit on that commission? You know, my question is, why is that commission under the Department of Education? Why is it not a standalone? Everybody else got a standalone commission. Everybody except us. It's a new commission, Congress, you know, Biden, Harris administration. But I think this issue we're talking about today, if it hasn't already been, needs to be brought to their attention, to the Department of Education, to inquire, like, why did you guys not defend this? And how can you help this program stay Black and put it within the bounds of the current laws? Because y'all doing everything else to help everybody else except us. And I'll be quiet.
No problem. No, I mean, you said a lot, and that gets us to our next point, right? I want to ask if anyone else has, you said a lot of right things, because we were actually going to start pivoting to some of the information about the commissions and about the executive orders. And I know this is a lot for some of you that are hearing this the first time, but in order for us to hold accountable, we need to know that accountability needs to be held. Sometimes we have the experience of emotional, physical, and spiritual, verbal violence happening to our bodies every day, our souls, right? Which we know is demonically inspired, I agree. But then we don't know where to navigate to find out what's happening. And the same people that are housed at the U.S. Department of Education are probably looking at the other commissions and executive orders saying, why are they on their own and we're here? Who's going to come fight for us? Okay. Because it has to be constituent demanded. If the government doesn't do it on their own, then it has to be a constituent-led effort. Just so you know, the rights of the people, right? So I saw 760. You had you're on the phone. Go ahead and speak if you still have a question.
Yes, it's not a question, it's a statement. I stay up here in the AV. The minorities and, well, more of the Black people, we need more steps to take. You know what I mean? Because you can go in the dollar stores and everywhere, schools. I mean, it's just a lot of stuff that goes on, which adults might can take it, but our children cannot go through that at such a young age when they're supposed to be learning. And they don't even know that that's not what's supposed to be done to them.
Right.
They just brush it off. So we need more steps and we need more workshops. So that's the reason I'm so happy I got with the knowledge shop. I don't know, it's just like heaven sent. But if we can get more stuff up here, I'm willing to help to do the footwork.
Yes.
To grab the people and bring them and educate them. Even if it's got to be small groups, you know.
I mean, look, you can take this information that I am teaching you and make toolkits, make student, advocacy, whatever. One of the things that I want to share before going into what Sharice was talking about is about just that. What do you do? Yeah. How do you keep your kids safe? How do you even recognize when they're not safe? And part of that is understanding the bullying laws when they intersect with race, right? This doesn't happen overnight or in a vacuum. But if you're trying to do something, it's better that we do it right and make sure it's legally valid or challenge unjust laws versus doing something and it always getting torn down. That's why I'm not in a courtroom. I'm an expert at policy and code, right? I work in the streets as an expert of code and policy, governance structure. Everyone has their lane of expertise. I like
that. I like the way you said that.
Right. I'm in the streets. So everyone has their expertise. We need people in courtrooms. We need people in the state house. We need people in the schoolhouse. We need someone everywhere, right? Again, all of this can be done by our advocacy. We don't always have to have a specially trained person to advocate for our rights. We just need to know what they are, and when they violate, what does that escalation process look like? What are you going to do next? Okay. Are you going to file a complaint or a lawsuit? We haven't even started into litigation, impact litigation. We can talk about that in a future session, right? But you have to have that at the forefront of your mind. Don't let 3, 4, 5, 6 months, statute of limitations, go by, something happen to your child and you do nothing. You didn't even codify it. And then 2 years later, you're saying, my child is harmed in a way that can't be, immediately repaired. And I attribute it to the school they went to, and they're in 3rd grade and now they're in the 5th grade. Right? Did you take them to the doctor? Did you take them to have a therapeutic analysis? Here are some tools that I'm going to give you to be able to document this stuff. Okay. And then when I raise these issues to the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, or Civil Rights Data Collection Agency, part of the work that they do, they say, we don't have the complaints that reflect this, but we know based on the academic data, something's going on. But when there's nothing codified to say, here's what's happening to us, people can create their own narrative. They can say, well, the data's that way because the deficit must be in X, Y, or Z. And I say, absolutely not. The deficit is not in us or our children unless you're making a phrenological argument that your brains are somehow greater than ours. And if you're not speaking on a pseudoscience basis, then qualify what you're saying immediately. Okay. Now that's the way you want to respond. Are you making a pseudoscience, phrenological, cranial structure argument when you say the deficit is in Black children, as if there's something wrong with their brains and they can't learn? Ask those questions, right? All right, let's, does anyone else have any questions? We want to move on so that we can get this done on time.
I just wanted to add about what you mentioned about going through all avenues to solve these issues. And you shared about encouraging parents to take their children to the pediatrician to document, to get them additional help. That's exactly what I did. And this goes to show how far systemic racism affects families. The pediatrician did not even include it in her after visit summary or in the records, in the notes. So I have to walk in there, file a written documentation, and get a receipt for what's happening. And this is like every step that we take. Parents have to constantly make sure things are on track for our Black children because nobody else will. So I do want to give just a word of encouragement. Continue, reach out to organizations like NAPI, avnan.org, NAPI.org, and support each other because we are stronger together.
Right. And I'm going to put the document that Lou referenced when she went to go get that medical treatment, right? So when medical practitioners are saying, oh, well, the child has an acute health symptom, and the parent said it's because they're under a racist attack, they don't want to document it, you need to take this back. How come you're violating this policy statement from the American Academy of Pediatrics? And should I report you to them or to the HMO? What? Because it does happen, right? We could do a medical know your rights another day. Sharice is putting stuff in the chat. Like I said, I do work from the national lens. You want to listen to the people that are on the ground, local organizations and leaders who know exactly who to target to have the discussion with. I may not have that information. I'm going to give you the rules, the regulations, the agencies, and the enforcement agencies in particular to seek for redress, right? You need to know who it is that you're talking to. If I send, and I put this link in the chat, if I send a request that's supposed to go to a superintendent of schools, to a, secretary or clerk at a school, but not at the right place, how do you know that message is going to get to where it needs to be? Right? So typically what I do is know who it is that I need to provide a request to, whatever that may look like, a request for compliance, special education, violation review, whatever that is, put it in writing, take it to the right person. I look at their profile online to make sure that's who is supposed to be tasked or responsible for this in particular. Make sure that I have their, Rashida's in the, their information of contact. I send it via email and ask for a return receipt. Please confirm receipt of this. Sometimes I do that and put out paper copy, take it to a district or a local agency and ask for it to be time dated and stamped and give me a copy back that I gave this to you, right? It's unbelievable how paperwork gets lost, quote unquote. And therefore your request, and all the while, this 180-day things is serious. Statute of limitations, right? 6 months, unless you want to waive that, right? And then it's a little bit challenging when it comes to systems of education. Maybe other systems don't have that same tight statute, but when it comes to systems, you want to make sure you act of education. You want to make sure you act right away. Okay, I put this in the chat as well. Look at it. It talks about the impact of racism on child and adolescent health. Talks about those acute health symptoms. We talk about children tapping their knee, biting their nails, pulling their hair out, complaining that they don't want to go to school because they have a stomach ache. Hi, Rashida.
Block is done. We've already got
hear your background.
For tomorrow. I'm gonna have to cancel.
Thank you. Welcome. Because they don't, and all the times people were thinking, oh, they're just trying to get out of school. No, that may be an indicator that they are somehow being bullied or victimized, but cannot articulate what they are internalizing because of their age. Okay. This document helps parents and the medical practice industry or field understand what those health symptoms look like. But as you heard from Lou, doctors don't want to document it. You have to go back, which you have the right to do, and check your medical record even. Okay, so this is the document that you want to reference or look at for more information. Let's move on to the bullying one, and I'm going to navigate right with you on site so you can see how I find it. So if I put bullying intersects with race, okay, oops, my fingers. Let's see what is going to come up, and I'm going to tell you the right thing to pick, right? So they even have data on this. We're not going to get caught up in that. Some people might want to go over to the National Institute of Health and check out that data to see, that of course the highest rates of bullying are among African American youth. I want to go to where the laws are, right? Which states have them. Sorry, let me move this, okay? So here you're going to see this is an official website again. It's a federal agency hosting this website, just so you know what you're looking for, okay? You're going to look at what bullying is, all of those things. Going to give you some resources. You could choose to use them or not. You can even choose to provide them to your school if you want to. If your child is a victim of bullying, you definitely want to know what to say, because a lot of times it just goes by the wayside. And with bullying, there aren't any innocent bystanders, just so you know, right? A lot of times people will say, oh, well, the kids were just being kids, not at the detriment of my child. I have actually, unfortunately, seen more of our children committing suicide within the last 2 years than I've ever seen in my life.
Yes.
Okay. And I started working in the San Diego Unified School District when I was 18 years old, on my 18th birthday. And I've been working in education since, even though I don't work there anymore. So I worked in early childhood education in the classroom and special education. And I never seen so many suicides than what I saw over the last 2 years. Please make sure your children are okay. I'm going to ask you to do that first. If they come home and say, I was mistreated by a colleague, student, peer, or a teacher, every single time I want you to make sure that they're okay, health-wise and mentally. And that is probably going to require that you seek a professional, okay? So if anyone needs help with that, you don't have insurance or whatever that may be, please reach out to one of us that mentioned our organizations so we can help you navigate that. Ms. Bernita. I see your hand.
Thank you. Yes, thank you so much. And I apologize for missing part of the presentation. And I don't know if you addressed this or not, concerning those children who are being bullied. We know I work in the field of domestic violence.
Right.
Do that right now. I'm a violence prevention practitioner. And one of the things that we recognize is that the majority of the children who are bullying is because of their mistreatment at home.
Mm-hmm.
So that is our concern, because if we want to change the structure of what we're living in, we've got to hold people accountable for having children.
Right.
And please understand, okay, all right. So, because everybody that has children does not want children. They don't desire children. Children are something that are a sidetrack, not something that they wanted to do. So those are the issues that I'm very concerned about and what drew me to this today, because we're trying to work here in the County of Los Angeles, well, LAUSD, through the Domestic Violence Council. We're talking to teachers. As a matter of fact, in our interfaith committee meeting the other day, we had a representative from LAUSD.
Right. You're absolutely right. So how are you guys engaging with VAWA, with the Violence Against Women's Act?
Well, that's one of our bases is VAWA.
Okay.
The problem is too many of the movements move in silos instead of in unity.
Right.
Okay. So it's bringing everybody up to date on this. I've been doing this since 1979. So I have had a lot of exposure to it. But you have the youth, people that are young enough to be my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, not recognizing and realizing how it needs to be addressed. How teachers, in particular, need to learn a better way of communicating with the children, find out what the children want, what they want to do, and use that as the training to get them to the highest heights that they are Okay, so that was my concern. I was really wanted you to know that we are doing that. We are looking at that. We are questioning what's not being done in the school system to address these particular issues. Because going to school is not just going to school to learn A, B, C, D, and 1, 2, 3. It's going to school to learn how to get along with everybody as well.
Okay, and so I'm going to be honest, I'm not really good at being an organizer. I know my lane. I'm an expert in policy and legislation. So I want to let somebody else maybe talk about what that coalition building looks like or respond to you, because I know my limits.
I got you. And I understand because I'm the same way. I'm gonna put my information in the chat for anyone that wants to connect with me, because we also have a child and domestic violence maltreatment committee that we're looking at and trying to address other issues. There's a number of issues that we are trying to address, especially with LAUSD. So I'll put my information in the chat, and then I can hook you up with the meetings that we go to and that we have, so that we can address all of this. Thank you so much for sharing.
Not a problem. As you can see, California, has the most robust laws and policies and regulations regarding bullying. Now, that may not be your experience, right? So the reason why we pursue justice is because our experience with law isn't matching what's being stated in the law. They don't match. Someone saying I have the freedom or the protection and that's not my experience, then there's something wrong there. When is that going to match, right? Again, if anyone else has anything that they want to add to it, and I did answer your question, Ms. Sharice, there's a lot of on the youth suicide prevention side tied to funding in the DOJ, okay?
I have one request. Before you went to the Stop Bullying site, you were at another one and you said you hoped someone could look this up further.
This one?
It was after that one.
Okay, I went to this one and this one. I was also gonna go to this site next.
We saw that one. Maybe it's before the White House. No, it said something about, you said you hope someone will look up
Proposition 209?
Nah, okay. It got lost. It was something you had highlighted and it featured a story, or it was Health and Human Services, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, you're talking about the National Institute of Health. Here it is right here.
Yes, that one. Thank you.
What I will do is put this in the chat. I don't, as you can
see.
Can
you go down? I was going to take a screenshot of it.
Okay. So as you can see, I'm just kind of giving a brief about how to navigate all this information so that, we're not just talking, we're right when we're talking, right?
Right.
So we can match our experience with what's codified or the lack thereof. Okay.
See, let's make it happen. The social change and research, and we use the data. So you had some really great numbers right there. So I was planning on really going and doing a deep dive on that for the group.
And I want you guys to know that because California, does everybody have that? I put it in the chat as well. Okay. So California receives over a quarter of its funding from the federal government. Other states, typically you see less. Some you see about the same on the West or a little bit more. Okay. So a lot of times when you're going through the studies or seeking out federal agencies, you do see a lot of those states reflected in the data. So I don't want you to dismiss it just because it's at the federal level, right? I want you to understand how to engage local, state, and federal. Because you see these people have up their game to working through federal agencies to take away your stuff, right? All right, our stuff, okay? Let's go to what Ms. Sharice was mentioning earlier. And I'm gonna take these off because they'll start getting confusing. I hope you all have those documents and things recorded. If not, we'll send you a link. So before we close, we're gonna go here and we're gonna talk about the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights. So in Obama's term, he signed an executive order, which was particularly for the educational opportunities of Black Americans, right? It was the first of its kind. We know prior to that, you didn't have an executive order or agency that particularly dealt with Black issues, except for the Black cabinet under Mary McLeod Bethune and the Roosevelts. Look that up, right? And, you know, Mary McLeod Bethune was able to do a lot with the Black cabinet, but she was friends with the Roosevelts too. And I'm glad, because we have to be in all spaces to advocate for the needs of our community. And we need to do it boldly. No one else apologizes.
Mm-hmm. So how do we, Christina, get the National Council for Negro Women, which was Mary McLeod Bethune's baby,
right?
2 million Black women across the nation as members. How do we get them to take this issue on seriously? I've been a member of NCNW for the last 3 years, and we do a whole heap of stuff, but our focus has been changed from this whole education driven model that this woman created. Then she built universities in her name and so forth. And I just don't see us really going back to our core. How do we, maybe we send them their
maybe we don't.
president.
I mean, maybe we don't. Listen.
Okay.
I'm going to repeat.
Maybe we don't. You're right.
I work with the Coalition of the Willing. Okay. And if we are willing to move forward, we don't have to have millions. We just have to have the right thing, the just thing. There's a lot of times where it's just me and a meeting. Okay. That doesn't stop me from winning because it's just me. Right. So we have to be able to say who's in the space right now and what is it that we can do as a coalition of the willing. And I'm not going to go and look for other people. Now, what I do is a lot of times notify people of a problem. But if I'm talking to the federal government and you're talking to the federal government, but I don't see you in the spaces of advocating for Black children, then I don't have time to waste on trying to convince you to come fight for our families. I'll just be there and do it myself. Okay. So I'm just going to say that because a lot of times I'm there. I just was at the DOJ with the Kristen Clark speaking and all of these people. I didn't see anyone from the Western hemisphere of the US, let alone California, besides a couple or a few federal employees.
You know, Christina, and that's the other part is, and that's why I'm at the table, because they were saying everybody has a different spin. We need to get our message clear and concise. It's backed by the facts that Christina is teaching us so that we can put that word out, because I could have died when I saw our story in the LA Times after we've been sitting up in a room talking about it for 2 months, but we haven't moved it forward. So that's my commitment, to help us pull together the facts so we have the right talking points. I come from a background where that's how we conquered, you know, breast cancer, smoking, right, you know, a whole bunch of stuff. My issue is also to let them recognize that they're giving everybody civil rights except the people who earned the civil rights. But that's another story. But that right. is my commitment, to help us put these facts together so we have the talking points and we have the power, because it's all, I have a part called We the People, because it is us that makes the change. So, and then if we have the 22 people that's on here, we could shake the foundation of what's going on. Am I right, Christina?
Yeah. I mean, listen, I always say it could be 3 people, 2 of us. We could be in agreement. Me and Yolanda. Let's go, Yolanda. Me and you, I see your name says, let's make it happen. Let's go.
Yeah.
We're gonna show
Me, you, Lou, Let's do it, man. Oh,
Going to
we got
show us.
700 members in Nappy and there's 20 people on the call. Just
Yeah.
I put it in the chat. California has a flip-flop mentality. We flip and we flop. Sometimes you're flavor of the month and sometimes you're not. And when it's time to do the work, I look around and it's the same 5 people in Nappy I see every time. Gabriella's in the room, our elders are in the room, but where is the young people whose children are in these schools being jumped on, pissed on, talked about, suspended, moved from classrooms?
Right.
Where are they? Where are they? You know, I'm the 61-year-old mother at the school. And I'm a grandmother. So where the rest of y'all?
Listen,
Right?
Yolanda, I would love to pass this mantle or baton, but until the good Lord tell me to stop, I'm gonna keep on doing this.
That's right, girl.
I have a
That's
30-year-old born and raised in California, San Diego, and a 13-year-old who's still in school, and that's my black son. They tried to come to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, we don't give up. Don't look around to see who's there.
No.
I'm gonna give you an example. Let's make it happen. You said you're good at collating information. What if your role is like that of the author of the Crisis magazine? You know who that was, W.B. Du Bois in the beginning, right? Now, did he ever assume that the Crisis magazine of him writing about Negro issues was going to be something that was ultimately sent out worldwide? So I don't see a lot of regular writing from our perspective because Black media always gets defunded or shut down. But does that stop us from having a blog site or a magazine that we circulate or whatever mechanism of sharing our story that we have? No, it doesn't. And the whole reason why our stuff gets shut down is because they know that we are powerful with what we say. I just am giving you the codified language to use within codified society, and you can utilize these mechanisms as a group or as an individual. You could be a concerned or a parent or grandparent complaining about your child, or you can be an organizational leader so you know where to go. Okay, so I'm going to end with this. We'll have to come back around to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights at a later time. I apologize for that, but this is good information. I don't have a problem with doing as many of these as we need to. One thing that I learned about working in policy and legislation, and like I said, being a political scientist by degree, right, is that I had to practice until I mastered. I couldn't just let it sit in my mind as a theory, right? I had to practice until I mastered. And so that's why when you ask a question, I know exactly where that item is housed. I know exactly which agency is supposed to regulate and enforce the rules, right? So that comes from practice until mastery. I didn't always get it right, but when I got it wrong, I went back and said, I'm going to figure this out because I don't have an opportunity to mess this up if another parent comes to me with the same dilemma, right? So practice whatever it is that you can until you master it, then you move on to the next thing. That's what keeps us from flip-flopping. There are also some other people in this space that may want to say a word or two, but I want you to check out, this is the executive order that Sharice was talking about, and there are some commissions that came out of that, the status of Black men and boys being one of them, that are also a part of the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, which is different from the Office for Civil Rights of the U.S. Department of Ed and different from the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ or any other agency. It's a standalone entity, the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, okay? Take some time to look at the order, and then I will put the link in the chat for the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, and you can go there and navigate yourself since I kind of showed you how to navigate, but we need to spend some time looking at some of the reports that they do have in the ways that they have done things so that we can make sure our information gets included. With that being said, I'm going to stop. And I see other people that are in the chat. Miss Moore is here. I also see Reverend Mosley. Definitely want to announce him, and Rashida. Please say something if you would like to. I want to grant you some space. Reverend Mosley, I'll let you go first. Welcome.
Thank you, Sister Christina, and just want to say hello and good afternoon to everyone. And as we know, we have a lot of work that needs to be done because it's our children that are being greatly affected, and the system and those that are in political influence are not doing anything unless we push the card and push the envelope and the agenda. So just want to say, let's not be discouraged now in this time. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep fighting for our children. And again, thank you. God bless you and have a great weekend.
Thank you for joining us. Reverend Mosley is the Western Regional Director of NAN. I've enjoyed working alongside of him as the Education Director. And we just, are going to continue to push on. And I tell you what, he's had my back, right? I say, we got to pull up for the kids. He said, where are we going? And so that's how serious we are. I also want to, Rashida, I see you on. Do you want to speak?
I'm sure I'll say something quickly, but just to echo what Reverend Mosley said, this is a very important issue. And I actually just wanted to say thank you for everyone who's on here. And I completely agree as the policy director for NAN LA. I agree with Christina, like that everyone kind of has their specialties and everyone has their lanes, and we need everyone, right? So the fact that, she has done a lot of great work with figuring out what the policies are that address it, figuring out, what we could do to make sure that the policies are both used for our children in the best ways, and also kind of get the word out about what they are. We also need a lot of people, in the communities and in the schools, like Yolanda said earlier, just to make sure that people are aware and to help it to work and to get everyone concerned. So thank you everyone who is here. Please continue. I would love to continue to jump on these calls. I would love to continue to take this work back to some of our members at NAN LA and let them know, again, NAN is very known for pulling up. Action is our middle name is what we always say. So please keep us involved and I'll definitely help to spread the word.
Absolutely. And Rashida, I owe you information. I just haven't collated that yet.
Right. Yeah, I was like, well, let me jump on and see if I can find some stuff.
So nobody has the information, but we definitely will get that to you. We have our summit coming up and I got to present it to the leaders, and then all the chapters will have that update.
Oh, great. Okay. I'll be there. Okay. Great.
Okay. So great. I'll see you there. And Miss Moore, would you like to say something? I thought I saw her name on there. Maybe she left. Okay. Is there anyone else? Oh, Miss Bernita Walker. Yes.
Yes, I would like to be kept abreast. I don't have a lot of time, but I'd like to be able to donate some time on this particular issue and to be a carrier to the connections that I am on as far as this information is concerned, which is several of them, and Yolanda knows where to find me. And because this is a big thing to me.
Yes.
Okay, and I'm like you. When the Lord calls me home is when I'll stop.
Exactly.
Okay. So please stay in contact with me. All my information is in the chat. So
I like that shirt you got on your Zoom picture too. So
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I wear my billboards. I got plenty of them.
Yes, definitely. Okay. Mine's gonna say, here comes trouble. you know, but I appreciate that. All right. 760. Oh yeah, I like that one too. You're on. You're on the chat.
Yeah, this is Nicole. I want to see how I can bring that information on how downtown that hill, you know, LA County, NAM does it, because we need to shake up this AV up here, and I'm willing to get in a little trouble, but good trouble.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm
That's
not
the whole
scared.
sermon.
I'm not
Okay.
scared at all.
That's
I
good.
just want to see how y'all do it. I need to observe, and I got this.
Make no mistake, some of these people are not afraid. It's that their advocacy is connected to their dollars. Okay. So we got to say that too, right? Some of these people are not afraid. They know exactly what's going on and exactly how they can intervene, but either they don't or they interject the wrong things to purposely keep our wheels spinning because their advocacy or the lack thereof is connected to their dollars.
Oh, I know that. That's the thing I'm having with DCFS probation, the police, the school district. Because at the end of the day, if they would have told the truth, they are mandated reporters, but they only mandate report family, not staff. So that's the dedication to the dollar. Mm-hmm. Retirement.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to continue to pursue righteousness and justice, right? It doesn't matter what other people are doing or not. And I have to say that. Now we want them to do what's right, just, and fair, but they don't. And so we have to pursue righteousness and justice because you can't make something just if it ain't right. If the foundations are corrupt, okay, then you're going to turn and make that thing just. How? You got the same people that made it corrupt. So that's where I think Ms. Sharice and Ms. Moore have a better conversation, and perhaps even Rashida when it comes to the reparation stuff. I'm not an expert in that, I'm going to be honest, but seek those that are and see what they have already provided. You don't have to reinvent your requests. They were talking about, you know, bringing these demands to local school boards, local councils. That's not my area of expertise, but they're experts on those committees are doing that work in this group, right? So let's make sure we're utilizing, you know, the connections that we do have to do the most that we can. Let's make it happen. Go ahead, and then we're gonna close. Yolanda, and Lou, you can close it out.
I was going to request if I can do our closing words.
Oh, okay. So Yolanda and Lou are going to talk. Thank you guys for the opportunity to teach. We will be back to do more of these. And so please just practice until you master. Pray for me because I have laryngitis. So I need to use my voice and I'm not going to let the enemy take it away. I'm going to keep on talking regardless. Bless you all and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Close now.
Thank you.
Hello? Our closing is.
I was going to ask Yolanda and Lou to give their final words.
Well, yeah, people were jumping off. That's why I was
y'all with the next session. Selena wants to get in, Selena Coleman. But after that little ordeal, she couldn't get in. So
a lot of people couldn't get in because once, you know, people started to tell us about ourselves, we just had to block everybody. So I mean, people have to register. That's the thing. If you register, then
I told her to register. Let me text her.
It's okay. We will do this again, and I need for people to register since I am giving them a certificate of completion.
Right, exactly.
For the training. Okay. So, Miss Sharice, I saw you had your hand raised, and then for those of you that have to go, we understand this is, like I said, live on YouTube and being recorded. So we can go ahead and circulate that video as well, right?
Before you all leave, or before we leave, I just wanted to point out, there was an education piece during the reparations task force hearing. So you can go back through YouTube, go to the DOJ, California DOJ's website, and you can go the first in-person hearing in San Francisco, I believe was April 2022. There was a piece on education. But if you want to go to the Reparations Task Force report number 1, and then also look at the recommendation for the Freedmen's Bureau at the state level. Those 2 items are going to solve a lot of what was talked about here today. And then you want to digest that. And I'm not sure if I'll be in the next meeting, but that would solve a lot of the issues that we're talking about today. So thank you so much. This was excellent. Excellent.
So I think maybe Lou and I, after we have Christina back a second time, Sharice, can we have you on for the 3rd session, do that education reparations piece? Because I think that is critical now. Yeah? Miss Sharice?
All right, of course.
Yeah. Great, we'll have you. So Christina will come back for the live presentation at the Knowledge Shop. I'm just trying to get dates, Lou, because my calendar is like insane right now. So what is Christina's availability? Do we know?
So for the next, I'm sorry, y'all. For the next 2 weeks until around November the 16th, I will be traveling across the nation doing some things. And the state as well. So I would look at a time after that. And I know, you know, a lot of people that are celebrating holidays, it's coming upon that time, but I'm willing to be present.
Okay.
So, whatever date after the 16th of November.
So the only day I can do will be the Thanksgiving weekend. So I won't do that. How about the 7th or December, or should we do another Zoom? Because I think that's too long away.
Okay, you know what? I can, while I'm traveling, I can do the Zoom. So yeah. Let me send you a message offline with some of my times and dates, because I don't want to share my travel itinerary.
Don't do that. Or maybe
itinerary.
While you're traveling, maybe we can have Sharice before then to do the educational reparations.
I don't want the supremacist to walk up on something they wasn't expecting. So let me just go ahead and let Lou take the rest of it.
So Sharice, what's your calendar like for the rest of November?
Are we still recording?
No, we stopped recording.
No, let me stop recording. I apologize. All right, for those of you that are watching YouTube, we'll see you again. I'll post something. Thanks for joining us live.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. Everyone. Let me stop the live. I don't see how to stop. Oh, I think it did. Okay. Does it say that it stopped on you guys' end? I have a screen.
Yeah.